Our next request comes from Matthew, and he's asked me to cover Firebreather, a TV movie from Cartoon Network Studios and Peister Productions. Firebreather was originally an Image comic series by Phil Hester. It ran for about 2 volumes before being snatched up for an adaptation by Cartoon Network. James Krieg was in charge of the screenplay while Peter Chung served as director. If the latter sounds familiar, that's because of his work for Aeon Flux and the Transformers cartoons in the 1980s. The movie we're watching today is all CG, and from what I've seen of it before, this could have served as a pilot for a future TV show. Nothing came of that, obviously, but does it mean that this movie sucks? Let's find out. We open with narration by our main character, Duncan. He describes a past war between humans and kaiju, and that ended because of his parents.
Oh yeah, that's my dad.
And the world was saved thanks to banging. We fast forward years later when Duncan is now a teenager and voiced by Jesse Head. He's obviously a little worried about moving to a new school and neighborhood, and he states those concerns to his mother Margaret, voiced by Dana Delany.
But they're the ones who started. Jerks are instinctively drawn to me like homing pigeons.
Oh, I'm sure people will get over it. I mean, supposedly this is the same universe as Invincible. I'm sure people are used to unnatural looking people. But yeah, Duncan is half human and half kaiju. Given the size of his father in the intro, I don't even want to imagine how he was conceived. Hell, his mom lampshades this at some point.
It couldn't have been more simple.
No, not listening. La 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 la.
Otherwise, our main character is that cliched new kid who's trying to fit into his new school setting. But given his heritage and a bit of a temper, Duncan is not confident that his peers would accept him. Now, as far as the animation goes, it seems fine enough for a TV movie. Heck, it would easily be good enough for a TV series. Most of the character designs are okay, although they aren't all that similar to the stylized look you would find in the Firebreather comics.
Check out the new kid. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was some bird crap on my rearview mirror, but now I can see it was just your face.
Oh, and this is Troy, voiced by Josh Keaton. He's the bully jock character. And the girl Duncan bumped into is Jenna, voiced by Amy Davidson. She's the popular girl that our hero has a crush on. But even talking to her would draw Troy's wrath because... You can easily tell that this movie was made in 2010, when stereotypical teen archetypes were really common. We finally get to biology class, where we're introduced to 2 more students, Isabel, voiced by Tia Texeda, and Kenny, voiced by Dante Bosco. They are the uncool kids who end up becoming Duncan's friends. What a surprise. Anyway, the students are told to dissect a frog for class.
No, Mrs. Dreekford, this is so wrong for so many reasons. Beyond the obvious animal cruelty issues, students have a right. A duty to refuse to do anything unbelievable.
I'm not sure if animal cruelty counts here when the frogs are already dead, although it could apply if they were acquired or killed inhumanely. Also, what the hell is that? Duncan takes a moment to fawn over Jenna until her frog wakes up. Seeing that it's about to bite her, he decides to make a fool of himself to catch it. Mayhem and hijinks ensue.
They're waterboarding Kermit! The jumper! Look out! Hey!
Well, he really brought down the house. Well, at least the stage.
So Duncan caught the frog as planned, but Jenna is obviously unimpressed with him because popular girl. And I guess biology class is only 3 minutes long because the bell starts to ring. As everyone moves on to another class, Ken and Isabel approach Duncan to ask what the hell happened. Isabel also caught on that Duncan's long-ass full name,
Salam, Belphegor, Gressel, Pythias, Wufan,
is full of kaiju titles. And she knows this because she's a kaiju nerd.
16 years since Belloc was last seen, and we keep thinking the kaiju are a threat?
I guess somebody has father issues. Duncan shows Isabel what he caught in biology class. According to her, it's a Gamorodon, kind of like a little kaiju servant for bigger kaiju. Kenny is watching this from a distance, and he's sad that Isabel is interested in someone besides himself. So for those of you keeping score, Kenny likes Isabel, Isabel likes Duncan, Duncan likes Jenna, and Jenna is involved with Troy. You got all that? Good. Speaking of Troy, some of his friends break into Jenna's locker to steal something. We then cut over to gym class led by a teacher named Blitz, voiced by Reed Diamond. Apparently he crossed paths with Duncan in the past, and we'll understand why a little later.
The whole vice principal thing really cramped my style. I could only yell at the kids. Here, I can get a lot more physical.
Oh goody, a possible abusive adult figure. That's what was missing in this high school setting. At least Duncan can demonstrate how awesome he is by defending Kenny in a game of dodgeball. Because that half kaiju inheritance must be useful for something. Impressive choreography, though I'm surprised by how high Troy can jump. You sure he's not half kaiju as well? Kenny thanks Duncan for helping him after class, but Troy and his bully friends aren't going to take their humiliation lightly. Our hero remembers that his mother wouldn't want him to fight other kids, so he bids a hasty retreat instead. Did I mention that this was based on an Image comic? That wasn't the same thing! Troy eventually corners our hero, who responds by spitting fire in his face. It's not a lot, though, and Blitz shows up in time to shoo off Troy. Turns out this teacher is working for a secret government agency called MegTaf. It's there to monitor Duncan while keeping his kaiju nature a secret. Blitz and Duncan eventually fly over to a MegTaf facility, and according to Dr. Patel, voiced by Nicole Sullivan, our main character has developed an ability to breathe fire.
You'll learn to control it in time, but until then you're just gonna have to stay out of situations with a potential conflict.
Like high school?
Of course, Blitz is wary about Duncan becoming a threat. But Patel and Margaret aren't suspicious since they think he just wants a normal life. I mean, fair enough, but I think Duncan is fine with experimenting with his new power for fun.
Got him over dinner sometime.
Huh.
Son of a buck!
Not bad, huh?
Regardless, Troy and Duncan are called into the principal's office for fighting. Blitz covers up the fire breath by claiming that Duncan was actually using flash powder that day. Regardless, the principal orders the two students to clean up the mess they made as punishment. This could be time to possibly have Troy open up about why he's always a jerk, but...
I know what I saw. You are some kind of freak. Just stay away from me.
Ha, I wish. Isabel comes over to tell Duncan of a party happening this evening, and he only considers going when he hears that Jenna will be there. His mom catches him sneaking out that night, but she lets him go since a party is a good chance to mingle with other kids. And at the party, he works up the courage to chat with Jenna, who tells him about the things stolen from her locker. Turns out it's money for homecoming, and the other students think she pocketed the cash for herself. Troy then interrupts the two by telling Jenna of Duncan's fire-breathing powers, but...
What part of grounded didn't you understand?
He is so busted.
You must be a glutton for punishment, boy.
Well, that explains why he's an asshole. He got it from his father. This gets Duncan to joke about fathers, because his own father is pretty crap, but this causes Jenna to walk off. Isabel has to explain where he done goofed.
Jenna's dad is dead.
Oh, man! How stupid am I?
Come on, you're a 16-year-old boy. Don't beat yourself up. Anyway, more of those Gamoradon critters show up, meaning they have a master nearby. And that master is none other than Belloc.
It doesn't make sense! Why now? Why here?
Because I'm here. He's looking for me.
Why?
Because he's not only Belloc, king of the kaiju. He's also my dad.
Awkward. That said, his design looks pretty cool. A bit different from his comic book self, which had the frills, but he still looks pretty menacing. He seems to be provoking Duncan by deliberately trapping Isabel. The most our hero can do is chuck stuff at him, then Belloc just takes Duncan in response.
Excellent. Duncan, let me look at you.
Sweet, it's Kevin Michael Richardson, aka Trigon from Teen Titans and Gontu in Lilo and Stitch. And he does display some shape-shifting powers with his mouth to make it more humanoid. Maybe he shrank down and mated with Margaret that way? At any rate, he goes on about how kaiju once ruled the world before the humans showed up, which sucks for him as king of the kaiju. He also wants Duncan to follow his path and be the future leader of his kind. So he's going to make his son stronger the hard way. There's already talk of a future war between humans and kaiju.
You ignored me for 16 years, and you expect to train me for something that I don't even want?
I'd joke about Belloc being Gendo, but even Belloc isn't that bad. We see more kaiju assembling, who range from giant bugs to almost demonic monsters. They aren't happy that Belloc mated with a human.
Who challenges their king? You, Abaddon? Or you, Astaroth? This is Duncan, my heir.
What happens now?
Okay, maybe I was too quick to think that he was better than Gendo, but Duncan later emerges from the lava with a transformed body. He had what looks to be armor in the comics, but here this feels more organic and draconic. And he just passes out after the transformation. He wakes up in the desert and finds that rare gem he swiped from Belloc's lair. Then he goes over to Kenny's trailer home, and Kenny takes it pretty well. Then again, Isabel told him that Belloc is Duncan's father, so it's easy to put two and two together. Duncan rants about his poor relationship with his father, then notices that Kenny is living on his own. Why is that?
I think my old man is a spy or something. He can't talk about it, obviously, but the pieces fit.
Man, are there any good father characters in this movie? Or even the comics? Either way, Duncan promises to keep Kenny's secret in exchange for hiding our hero's link to Belloc.
What were you doing at that party anyway, bro?
Isabel invited me.
Isabel invited you?
No. She just told me about the party.
But Isabel was there? At the party?
Yeah.
Duncan, you could just say that there's nothing serious going on between yourself and Isabel. I mean, maybe he won't believe you, but you gotta try. And somehow, Margaret is able to call Kenny's phone to reach her son, while Megtaff is on high alert because of Belloc. Duncan's obviously not happy with his dad appearing again, but his mom actually speaks up for his dad. Not only did they truly fall in love with each other, but she doesn't think of Belloc as a monster.
So what am I? Am I human or am I kaiju?
You're you. That's all that matters.
And despite Duncan's transformation, Margaret tells him to keep going to school. She assures him things will be alright, and he can make his own choices.
Except for college. You're going to college.
Right. At the very least, it looks like most of the kids are fine with him for what he did against Belloc, except for Troy. But that's expected. Hell, some kids actually treat him like a hero. Duncan talks a bit with Isabel before spotting Jenna. He then slips the gem he found into her locker. Now she can sell it later to pay for the homecoming party. Later on, Duncan comes up to Jenna to ask if she'll go to homecoming with him. And she says yes! Anyway, we cut to Blitz flying Duncan to Dr. Patel for his usual testing. They're taking a longer route to see if Duncan remembers anything about Belloc's lair, but then the jet is hit by large rocks. Blitz is forced to bail out of the jet, and he tries to help Duncan do the same. Not that Duncan needed the help, because he transforms midair and throws down with the kaiju hurling those rocks, and the fighting is... mild, to be frank. The choreography is there, but I can't hear the impact of all those megaton punches. Belloc is watching on the sidelines, and he tells his son to finish off the monster. Duncan obviously doesn't want to do that, but he might just have if he wants to get his father off his back. Oh, no friendship for you then. Yeah, Blitz called for backup earlier, so now Megtaff shows up to attack Belloc. Belloc fights back for a bit and even gets a hold of Blitz, but Duncan tells everyone to stop fighting before things get worse. Then...
I surrender.
What?
So, now you care enough to respect his wishes? What changed? And Megtaff locks up Belloc behind reinforced bars, surrounded by rock. Yeah, he probably can break out of that in no time. 2 kaiju look on before leaving their cave for somewhere, but we have no time for that cause it's homecoming! Duncan picks up Jenna from her home, Isabel and Kenny come along with Margaret's help, and typical teen drama ensues. Isabel is clearly sad to see Duncan being with Jenna, while Kenny isn't enjoying himself either. But then Jenna is named Homecoming Queen, meaning she has to dance with Homecoming King Troy. Isabel uses this chance to dance with Duncan, which bugs Kenny something fierce.
Ken, what is up with you? Are you mental?
No, I'm human. Unlike some people around here.
Ken, why don't we go talk about this outside? It's not what you think.
No! The only reason Isabel liked you is because she knows your old man is Belloc!
Is it?
Jenna.
Get away from me! Get away.
Oh sure, blame him for the actions of his father. And I thought you were more understanding. Duncan storms off, but more Gamoradons appear during the homecoming. That could only mean one thing. Well, that fatality could have been worse. Did you see how that one British lady died in Jurassic World? Kenny actually tries playing the hero to cover for Isabel, but Duncan has to save him when he gets caught. Getting better, Kenny apologizes for snapping like he did, Duncan forgives him, and even Troy tries helping them escape. Our hero then fights the kaiju on his own, and Margaret sees that his son needs help. She gets on a hidden jet, then finds Jenna sneaking aboard. Luckily, Jenna gets to stay on when she said she wants to help Duncan, so now she's in on the world of kaiju and secret government agencies. Once they change into different attire, Margaret shows the gem Belloc gave her long ago. This is how Jenna knows that Duncan gave her the gem for homecoming. Speaking of Duncan, he's luring away the kaiju while Blitz prepares his men for action. Margaret sneaks into Belloc's jail to hold him at gunpoint, because she wants to know if he sent out those kaiju. He says,
I did not send them, but I suspected they might come for him. That's why I let the humans take me. To be close, to protect him.
I knew it. I'm not gonna let you take my son, you know.
I know. But if he chooses to come freely, what will you be willing to do?
For now, let's just hope we can keep him alive.
So remind me, how did you two fall in love again? And Belloc just breaks out of the cage. Called it. Blitz sees this and thinks Duncan is responsible, but our hero is still trying to protect Megtaff from the kaiju. And to do just that, he develops a new power.
Why? Why'd you save me? You know I need an A in gym class.
Well, Duncan is earning his father's respect for once. But Belloc then finds himself beaten up pretty bad by Abaddon and Astaroth. Margaret sees this and decides to help out her ex.
Jenna! No!
Huh, guess he can be a good guy after all. The kaiju still gang up on Belloc, but this time it's Duncan to the rescue. Despite the order to kill from his father, he decides to resolve the battle his own way. He does this by flying up to the mountains to start an avalanche. Belloc sees this and shields Margaret while Duncan saves Jenna. And as for the enemy kaiju... Belloc acknowledges Duncan's worth for showing compassion, even when that seemed impossible. Megtath imprisons him again, but he can always bust out like last time to be around his son. Then we get a final scene with Duncan and Jenna before our hero soars into the sky. So, the Firebreather movie was... alright. It definitely has that pilot feel which lays out the core premise of the comic series that could then be fleshed out in a TV series. The CG isn't exactly the best, and the character designs are very tame versus what you see from the comics. The characters also needed way more fleshing out beyond their archetypes, but at least the action was decent. This was more engaging than Reign of Fire. And if this movie had a TV show, I wonder if they would have featured other characters from Image Comics. I know Duncan got referenced in OKKO one time, but maybe Invincible might bring him in for a cameo since there was that one crossover they had in the comics. And I wouldn't mind seeing more Firebreather if it's anything like this movie, because what we have here is a good introduction to an interesting series from Image Comics. Next time, we're trading in dragons for a war story in Europa. I'll see you then.
Easy there, Chief.